This episode is brought to you by Brandon Ball, broker-owner of Dwelling Realty, Keller Williams, Northern Michigan. Are you looking to sell your home? Then look no further. When you list your home with Brandon Ball, you'll get a trusted advisor who will guide you through the entire selling process. With extensive knowledge of the local market, he'll help price your home competitively to attract the right buyers. And with proven marketed strategies, your home will be seen by the most qualified of buyers. With 17 years in the business, you'll have someone experienced who's on your side. Contact Brandon today to get started selling your home. 231-690-4981. That's 231-690-4981. Or Brandon at dwellingrealty.com.
Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah, you're welcome. Shout out to the Outpost. Have you always lived here? Where'd you move here?
So I did grow up here. This is my hometown, but
Manistee's your hometown.
It's my hometown, but I'm not from here. So I was born in Austin, Minnesota, and I lived there for just like a few years, and then we moved to Wisconsin, stayed there 1 year, and then my dad, he was an orthopedic surgeon. He had a job opportunity here in Manistee, so we moved here in 2005, and so I grew up here. This is my town. Yeah.
So you graduated from Manistee High, or?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What years?
Class of 2018.
Nice.
Yeah.
2018. Yeah, you're just a little bit older than my son, who's 21 now, on his way to 22, and big things, right?
Yeah, it's a big end to a chapter. And then so after that, went to school, went to Hope College down in Holland, and was there till 2022, and then came back here. The rest is history.
You got a degree in communications from Hope College.
That's right.
What was your mindset? What was your thought process? Why did you pick communications?
Sure. So going into college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. You know, I wasn't one of those people that had, in 10 years I want to specifically be doing this. I looked at college as an opportunity to really learn as much as I could and just to pursue the things I was interested in. So I found learning a lot of the communication courses fascinating because I feel like that element is, you find that everywhere you go, knowing how are you communicating with people. In my time at college, I was also really heavily involved in the music and theater departments too, because when I'm not at work, I'm always doing something normally related to the arts. So did like piano accompaniment work, performed in ensembles and things like that, and got involved, plugged into different clubs. I worked at the writing center there too, so I had an opportunity to be a student director there for a couple years, and that was a really great learning experience too, to talk about writing, to talk to other students who are in different fields, and I felt like I got to learn a lot, and I loved getting to absorb all of that. So it was a great environment for me. I loved it.
You know, and I talked to, I had a pretty good conversation with Dylan, my buddy Dylan, and here on the podcast. He's been on a few times, but the last time he was on, we talked at length about college experience, mentors, stuff like that, and I find that your story kind of dovetails well with his, and that he really immersed himself in the college experience. And I think, speaking from somebody who did not immerse himself in the college experience, that left after a semester and took a different route, I feel like those individuals that do, to a certain respect, immerse themselves in the experience, number one, have a better outlook of college, finish school, and those that don't tend to maybe fall out. Would you agree with that?
I think college is one way that someone can choose to be successful in their personal and professional lives. So I think for someone like me, it was a really great experience. It sounds like for you, if it wasn't what you needed, you didn't need that. I think there are plenty of people that don't need college to live successful lives in their careers or whatever they're aspiring to get out of their life. I think I was listening to one of those episodes that Dylan was on, talking about college, and a lot of it too was, not just what you're learning, but kind of what's outside of the classroom, like that social element, and right. Learning to live on your own. One of the greatest lessons I learned in college was learning how to say no and learning when to say no. Because, for example, you can't do everything all the time. You can't you can't set unrealistic standards of, oh, I want to be able to accomplish this, and this, because that's not feasible. You're going to burn yourself out. You're going to stretch yourself too thin. So, just picking something that you are interested in and picking something to really focus on that, I found to be a better way to look at it. So, but yeah, no, college, I think it is definitely a really good environment for people. It's definitely not the only setting people need, but it was a great experience for me.
Yeah, what you said there about learning the ability to say no, I think is it's something that a lot of people struggle with. Like, you're on a particular path, you want to be successful, you want to do all the things, and then there's burnout, or that you're just stretched too thin. The older I get, the opportunities that, or the questions that come towards me about trying to do something or whatever, I'm always like, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is no, but then it's like, but maybe if I free up some time. But if that's too much for somebody, then I guess I'm just out. But being able to say no is a really good tool in your toolbox.
Yeah, I
sure.
mean, there's only so much time in the day, and you only have two hands. You can only do so much in a given day. So you have to use your time wisely and treat it with respect.
But you're busy, and I'll tell you, because for just going on LinkedIn and doing my little
Sure.
stalking
Yeah.
for episodes. Obviously, we follow each other on LinkedIn, and it's all there, dude. You do so much. You've done a lot. College, post college, and then you're definitely immersing yourself in the. And I don't know if that's so much because you work for the chamber, and you're just involved in so many things because of the chamber. But can you kind of speak to a little bit of some of the things that you're involved in? Especially, the Manistee National Forest Festival is a big one for you. The Mission Point Press that you were a part of, the Ramsdale Regional Center for Arts, which you're doing some stuff with them.
Oh yeah.
And then also you are in theater or music. You teach music.
There's
There's a lot there. So somebody who says no all the time has got a lot of shit on his plate.
I think I have to thank a lot of the mentors and teachers that I had that were able to get me some of those opportunities
That's one of the
through
questions
school
I had.
and beyond school. I feel like when I reflect on my experiences, in my professional life and my personal life, a lot of that is thanks to the people I knew and the people that saw my interest and saw who I was, and they saw that I could be a good role in something like this. I know you had, in regards to the music and theater, for example, I'm the music director for the Children's Theater Workshop, which is a program that's part of the Arts and Culture Alliance of Manistee County. So we're actually prepping for that right now this August. It'll be our 10th year doing it. And that's a program I've been involved with all 10 years. So that was something I got started with when I was 14 years old, when the Doug Schloff family had reached out to a woman named Carol Voights. She's since passed away, but Carol Voights' impact on the local arts and the community arts here it's amazing what she did. But anyways, that family had reached out to Carol Voights about saying, hey, we want to start a theater program. And Carol reached out to my mom, Sharon Gates, who is also deep in that world, saying that she needs a partner to get it. And from there, Carol was like, "We want Blade because he knows how to play piano and he can do it. He's young. There are going to be kids that are in this program that are his age, but I want him seated right next to me, and he's going to be playing the piano alongside me." She gave me that opportunity to get that leadership, and since then I've stuck with the program. There's a bunch of we have college-aged interns, high school-aged interns. That has been a great leadership experience for me. For example, really, I feel like whenever I think about any of my opportunities, it's thanks to someone that opened the door for me.
So, can you speak to, which, by the way, I think that's all really awesome. Music, theater, super important stuff. And the Ramsdale seems to be, if you just look at news articles and stuff like that, maybe struggling a little bit. So, to keep that flame lit is a very good thing.
And the thing is, something that's I think is really unique about Manistee County is the amount of people that are passionate about the arts and the performing arts here. Uh, like the Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts, for example, the number of people that either volunteer their time there or are passionate about what's going on there, I think that's great. It says a lot about our community and what kind of things we value here. The array of different nonprofits and organizations that are here, like the Arts and Culture Alliance, which I'm a part of, the community band that Ryan Biller heads every summer that brings so many people over to the beachfront. I
Which
remember
is wild. Free concert.
Yeah, and they're great. I listened to them
Dude.
last summer. They were awesome. Like the Manistee Civic Players with their community theater programs. There's so many different ways to get involved in the performing arts. I feel like that's you don't see that always in communities like Manistee, and I think that's awesome.
No, it's definitely a cornerstone for sure.
Would you ever do theater?
Would I?
Yeah.
No.
I feel like you would be a great personality for it.
Yeah. Well, I've never done anything like that. I think I did a like one of those talent shows in high school.
Sure.
You know, something like that. But it was more like we were just lip syncing like some rap song, me and a buddy.
Yeah.
Old school rap.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see myself doing anything like that.
That's fair. I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and I say this sometimes, and people are like, "What?" But I've got a little bit. I don't like being around a lot of people. I get a little social anxiety. It's so doing something like that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse.
Well, it's funny you say that because I feel like most people that I that are fellow actors or fellow musicians or whatever, a lot of them are more introverted or aren't really interested in being surrounded by a bunch of people. But through that creative art, they're able to really express themselves. So, I mean, you definitely wouldn't be the only person, but
I get people that ask me, groups that ask me to like do public speaking and stuff like that. I'm like,
I don't think anyone actually likes public speaking.
Yeah.
Does any?
I don't.
I can't
I
think,
can do it. I don't get nervous. I just get like, there's a lot of people.
No. I'm perfectly fine doing public speaking too. But I don't know anyone that's always like, yes, I love public speaking. I can't name a single person that actually that feels that way.
Yeah, for real. So, Hope College, and then what got you into the chamber?
Sure.
I guess, what did you do before you started work? You got out of school, and then the position. Well, let's talk about what you did immediately after college, and then the position at the chamber.
Sure. So I immediately after college, I had a summer internship with the Dr. Sura with Hope College. She's the director of college writing there. I helped do some research, putting together a new writing tutors manual. I got to do a lot of research on writing. I enjoyed that a lot. And I should also mention too that especially in 2022, we're still kind of facing a lot of the aftermaths of how COVID impacted education and how it impacted the way we looked at work and things like that. So, for example, that internship the vast majority of it was remote. And it actually worked for that role specifically because a lot of it I was able to just do from home and those kind of things. So I had that summer internship. And then that fall, I accepted a temporary part-time position with the Ramsdale Regional Center for the Arts. I was the volunteer coordinator there for a year. And then after that, I was ready to take on something full-time and look for something that can kickstart my career. I saw the opportunity at the chamber, applied, and they liked me, so they hired me. So now we're here.
What do you like most about that? I think the arc with the marketing arm of the chamber really took off with you being put in that position. I mean, it just did. I just felt like there was a lot of posts or some stuff like that on social media, some pictures with some copy, but you brought a video element, you started interviewing businesses, you're out producing marketing material for the chamber, which I think is phenomenal because it gives the opportunity for this more general public to see what's going on behind the doors in
Yeah.
other businesses that wouldn't normally be posting a lot of stuff because they don't have time, they don't really understand how to do it, or you
Yeah.
give them a voice
Yeah, no,
online.
and I appreciate you see that because I mean, let's be honest. Social media right now, it's hard. It's hard to consistently market yourself all the time, to always be online and scrolling and staying up to date on things. There's just so much content. They say that the internet is so oversaturated with content that there's like that it would be virtually impossible, right, to be fully informed about something in a given
Right.
day. Um,
We could talk about being fully informed for days on here, but we're not going to do that today.
yeah. So with social media specifically, and with some of those video content pieces I like to make, and I want to say too, it's kind of to the point that I mentioned earlier, where you recognize you want to always do more, and you always want to be able to try something new and go and take the next step, even if there are, again, only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much a small team can do. So when I look at a lot of some of those video content pieces and what we're doing to incorporate, other businesses, and we work together as a team at the chamber too, making sure that we're checking in on businesses and organizations and making sure that we're shouting them out and promoting them. One word I always think about, especially now, is authenticity.
Yeah.
I think there can be a lot of vanity online where sometimes things can feel superficial, maybe not intentionally, but sometimes that can just be how it can feel, because there's just so much, and sometimes you see the extra polished version of something that, even if in real life it wasn't anything like that. So when I look at things like the reels or videos or things like that, I think about what can I do to help provide a face behind the name of the business, or the name of the organization. Maybe it's just a video piece that just highlights the chamber staff, right?
Sure.
What can we do to show that we have personalities, that we're people, that we have names, and what can we do also to show the names of the people behind those businesses that make those businesses succeed?
How often first of all, let me just go back here. I agree with everything you're saying. Authenticity is super important, because as both a producer of content and a consumer of content, when I see something that's definitely over polished and it's like next, I think the majority of people that consume content are more apt to take in something that, for lack of a better term, looks a little campy, looks a little raw, looks a little quick to post or something like that. It still gets to the point, but it's definitely something that's not overproduced. So my media company does social media for some other companies, and a couple of these companies also use a much larger company to do commercials and stuff like that. And I'll collect that content, and I'll post that along with some of the other stuff I've produced. Even if it's really funny and well put together, a lot of times the commercial look, the appearance, because it's so clean, it's cut perfectly, everything looks amazing in it, it's like a few hundred views. And if they do the exact same thing, just pick up an iPhone quick and do the exact same thing, that thing gets a few thousand views. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's because the consumer, the person that's taking in that content, automatically assumes that this is just something that they're just trying to sell me something.
Yeah, I mean, like they say, that our attention spans are decreasing, right, because of social media. But I think part of me wonders if it's more, not necessarily. I mean, there would be a reason for that, right, if that were the case. And I think if you're looking, say, at a bunch of content, yeah, if they see that it's not going to be a valuable use of their time, chances are they probably aren't going to spend a lot of time on that,
Right.
because a lot of people feel busier than they used to, because there is just so much content now. And so, yeah, I think a lot of it is pretty fleeting. It doesn't help how uncontrollable sometimes that algorithm can be. Because sometimes you think something is going to work and then doesn't. And to your point, sometimes you just open up your camera on your phone and then suddenly that's the thing that goes viral. Sometimes it's hard to gauge that. You might think what's going to work, but sometimes you don't.
I'll spend so much time putting together a piece and be like, oh, this this one right here is going to be the one. And it flops. And then one that takes me 30 seconds to do does super well. When you're looking at like, I do enjoy having this kind of conversation too, because I like to talk to people that create content and kind of get a feel for what they see and how they're attacking marketing, especially on like reels and shorts and stuff like that, or TikToks, because those are really the most consumed pieces of content, the quick videos, stuff like that. So a lot of times I prescribe to the try to get the hook right away. Try to get the person to stop because they want to see what happens next, and then meld them into the video, but make sure that I'm giving them all the information they need to stick around. Not so much with like the kind of the funny shit that I do sometimes, but if I'm really trying to drive a point home, what do you look at in terms of, like, say you're going to go to business A and do a little something for them, but you want it to be a little fun and engaging. Like, how are you looking at creating that piece with the hope of getting that out there, getting more reach?
Sure. No, that's a great question. I think first of all, I try not to, especially with some of those videos, I think it's just important not to make it so complicated that it's going to take up a bunch of time to put together, because you're not putting together like a movie. This isn't like a long form video. With things like shorts, it's fleeting. People are either going to stick around and watch, or they're not going to watch, and that's perfectly fine. They have the right. You have the right to consume the media you want to consume. So when I think about, I normally have a general roadmap for thinking about, okay, what kind of story do I want to tell with this? What kind of attitude do I want this to kind of have? And I think it can be beneficial to kind of yes and things. The idea of
like that.
Sometimes the person you're working with might have an idea for something, and it's instead of necessarily saying no to that, why not try it out, see if it works? I definitely believe in the idea of sometimes you just have to try new things to see what sticks. I don't think there's anything wrong with a little experimentation, especially with social media and things like what kind of content you create. And you also want to create something that reflects your brand and your mission and what you're your overall goals, right? Like, at the chamber, our goal is to help support the businesses and fulfill their needs throughout Manistee County, right? So it wouldn't make sense for me to, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like, it wouldn't make sense for me to like go visit Traverse City and do a reel about that. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. I'm here to, like, with the chambers here for Manistee County and supporting everything that's great about Manistee County. So I think remembering your mission and what you're trying to do, whether it's your personal brand, whether it's your organization, I think that's so important. I think it's really important to always remember your audience. Think about who are the people that are actually going to be seeing this. What kind of things do they need? And then there was another thing, but
no, I get it.
Yeah, you get it.
Like,
it's
for me, like you said about like time and how long to keep them engaged or whatever, and the attention span is shrinking, but I'm a long form guy. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are well over an hour or so long per podcast. I read a ton. I listen to books on tapes. Did I just say books on tapes? I listen to audiobooks. I'm so old. And what I'm doing here with you, definitely F's up my algorithm, because I'm doing this with you for me. Because I think, in fact, I know the reason why I do this is because I want to get to know people. I want to learn. I want to evolve. And I think the long form conversation for me is super important. And I don't know how many times without scheduling a podcast that I would actually sit down and have an hour and a half, 2 hour long conversation with somebody, right? Like, those days I think are over. Most people, hey man, I got like 10 minutes if you want to grab a cup of coffee. And that catch up is a little bit different. And I have a very small group of friends, and we've all got shit going on. So I take this opportunity, if I'm interested in somebody, this is a great, if I get him on the podcast, then we can talk and get to know each other at a better level and maybe form a bond or a friendship or whatever. And I just don't feel like today you get those kind of really long interactions unless you have somebody over for dinner. You know what I mean?
I do. And social media is weird, right? I have even just in my personal life, it's a love-hate relationship with social media. There's a lot
True.
I mean, I can't name a single person that genuinely loves the current state of social media and the way that our phones work with like endless scrolling and that
Right.
kind of thing. Most people, I feel like, are tired of a lot of that, even if there are things they enjoy about it. They enjoy the content, those kind of things. Especially, I think COVID too. I think reinforced that sense of we wanted to try seeing if we could do everything online and see, hey, maybe we can just spend all of our time on social media. Maybe we can spend all of our time on TikTok, or looking at memes or whatever. And I'm wondering if people are starting to realize, well, actually, I'm not really getting a lot of fulfillment out of that alone. And I see more people my age that are discarding social media altogether.
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, and I think because there are so many, there are so many stats that they've done on some of the negative consequences of spending too much time on your phone or on some of these sites that are designed to keep you hooked on it. And it's not to say that it's not to discredit all the good things that do come from these sites, because those are great and we should continue to lean into those things. But I am hoping that people are continuing to be mindful about that, because I mean, the thing is, I think of social media as a means to an end, right?
Right.
Like social media or using the internet or whatever to connect with people, I think is a great way. So then what are you actually doing to connect with those people? Are you using it to help promote a community event where you actually can all come together and enjoy each other's company? Or are you using it as a way of building up walls and not talking to your neighbors? People use it differently. It's a weird world to be online right now with that.
It really is. It really is. And when less and less people are, tuning into that. I'm 40, going to be 47, and when I was a kid, there was 2 or 3 stations, and each had a different news, but it was the same news. It doesn't matter what you watch, you got the same news, and now it's like there's news everywhere, and I just saw something this morning, dude, so I don't particularly do a whole lot of scrolling on social media anymore. I'm more of a post and ghost kind of guy, and I don't read comments, and if I do go online, it's brief because I'm getting ready to post something and I'll check something out. And then this morning, I went on because I had something I had to schedule, and I was just and I saw breaking news, a jet crashing somewhere, like an F-37 or something like that, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, who wants to see that first thing in the morning? You know what I mean? But it just comes up.
Yeah, good morning. Here's some bad news.
Good morning.
Right?
Here's some bad news. And by the way, folks, we got plow trucks outside, so if you're hearing a little stuff in the background, it's because we got a shitload of snow last
They're
night.
doing a great job. Really appreciate what they're doing to keep those roads clear.
So bear with this part of the segment here. So to go back to more and more people are, probably younger people, pulling themselves away from social media. I talked to, like I said, I've got a 21-year-old son, I've got a 19-year-old daughter, and I got a 9-year-old daughter. And when I always try to farm my kids, hey, what's going on? What are you guys on? What are your friends on? Because for what I do for a living, I need to know where the people are watching shit. And my son, for example, for a while he would be TikTok, we just screw around with TikTok, but he's really on Discord with all his friends, right? And my daughter's the only thing I'm on is Snapchat. And then I talked to a friend of mine the other day who's got kids that are my youngest daughter's age up to I think 12, and the 12-year-old is now saying that they're playing on Facebook and YouTube. Right, so it's always kind of well, what's going on? But none of them are using all of them, and I for me personally, I'm an Instagram guy. I really like Instagram. I like the old school Instagram way better when it was just photos. But the younger kids that I talk to that are 20 and down don't even want to play around with Instagram. So it's like, but then you see the stats and it's billions and billions and billions of people, or millions and millions. I guess I shouldn't say billions and billions, but it's wild. And something like Twitter, for example, is virtually non-existent in Michigan, or X, or whatever the fuck they call it, which is probably a good thing. But where am I going with this? The time, I think, for all of these companies, where it's basically just going to be like YouTube. It's going to be one app that everybody goes to, because YouTube essentially does everything that all these apps do, and underneath, YouTube is like the number 2 search under Google or something dumb. But like Google owns YouTube, so it's kind of wild to me to think about how all these things can just fade away. But then you want to get away from Facebook, but literally, if you want to know what's going on, if there's an event or you're being invited to a party or whatever, it's a Facebook event that's created, private or public, and that's the only way you know about it.
Yeah, it's a weird, and it's tough because I know plenty of people that don't use social media, right? And they'll say, well, I have such a hard time. Well, maybe they don't always have a hard time, but there are times where they just don't hear about things because, like you said, it's on Facebook, or it's on one certain platform that a certain percentage of the population uses. And let's face it, a lot of Manistee's residents use Facebook, so of course it's going to be used as a way to advertise a lot of different things that are happening in the area. But yeah, not everyone is on it, and especially as we're going through the 2020s, I'm no psychic, and I would need to do some more research, but I really wouldn't be surprised if people continue to rethink about the way that they use social media and sites like Facebook for some of that information, because again, there's, like you said, there's just so many different platforms now, and there's just so much different content, and it's overwhelming for, I think, a lot of people, and I think that's perfectly valid, and I think wanting to just step away from that and maybe just get the physical newspaper in the mail and just call it a day. I wouldn't be surprised if some people have just made that decision, because there is a lot. There really is a lot.
Sometimes I wish somebody would just trip over a cord one day and it just all goes away, and then we're forced to kind of figure out what to do. Go back to the newspaper or something like that. And I'm not talking about like the internet just goes away, because that would be like chaos for a shitload of people for a few months until they figure out how to get their tills back up online. But sometimes I do think it would be nice to just pull the plug on it.
Yeah.
Because I think about, so when you were growing up, Facebook was just kind of really evolving, but it was still at a point where you'd be posting pictures of your family updates with friends and family, pictures of grandma with the grandkids, and now it's just an endless news feed, basically.
Well, and I'm grateful that I didn't really get into social media until I was out of high school. Like, I can't imagine growing up like as a 13, 14-year-old and then just spending all my time on those sites, because there's this idea of like media literacy, right? Of understanding where the information that's being presented to you online is coming from and why that specific information is being presented to you. Because let's face it, there's going to be thousands of different news articles that tell the same story, but they're all going to be a little different.
Right.
So why is this one story being presented to you out of all these others? And I think with my current relationship with social media, like in my personal life, right, is just remembering to always have some of those critical thinking skills when you are finding information, and you are looking into something online, because the media can manipulate you. It can manipulate you for good, for bad. But it can influence the way you think about things, and knowing where you're getting that information and who's writing it, what's the validity of some of this information, what research have they done, like where, or are they financially involved so that they would spin a story a certain way. There are so many different factors that can go into the way certain media outlets can present stories that, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's wise to not be questioning that information and not be
Dude, I question
about
everything.
that.
I left my tinfoil hats at home. I didn't think you'd want to wear one. But yeah, I mean, so like there's two things that I do, or one that I just did the other day, but one thing that I was doing all the time was I would go into my feed and search things and like certain things so that it would change my algorithm. You know, like for example, on my Instagram, I just go into like running, trail running, blah, 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 workout stuff, and then just start liking a bunch of shit so that my feed kind of readjusts. But then also, Instagram just came out with this deal where you can reset your whole algorithm. You can go in and wipe it clean, and it starts over. And I did that a couple days ago. You know, they give you a bunch of warnings like, hey, we're really going to change this. It's really going to go away. You're really going to have to... you know, it's all going to be new suggestions. They're basically going to say everything that you've been liking or scrolling past, or, you know, I don't want to see this kind of thing. That's all going to go away, and you got to start over. And I did it, and like that, it was nothing but like, this is how you should do this trail or whatever. It was perfect. And I'm like, hey, that's the way I want to be. Because what happens in the algorithm, and I'm sure you know this, is like you start watching things and maybe searching certain things, and all of a sudden that's the information you're going to get. So when people say the algorithm's against me, it's not the algorithm, it's you.
I mean, you might not always have control over what your algorithm feeds you, but you can always control how you respond to that.
Right.
I mean, actually, that's kind of like a big life thing, too, just in general. Like,
Sure.
So many things can happen to you in your life, but one thing you can always have control over is your attitude and how you choose to respond to it. So if you don't like what you're seeing online, there are steps you can take to control that. And maybe all you need to do is just take a break. Get off your phone, go for a walk, get outside, go see your friend that you haven't seen in months. Like,
That is really wise. That's a wise statement. And I think a lot of people should take note of what you just said.
I know one thing we're thinking about, like even at the chamber going into 2025, is community, and what are we doing to make sure we're checking in on businesses and organizations and just people, and not just messaging them, but like actually just stopping in and just having an in-person conversation like this, because let's face it, I think plenty of people are struggling in different capacities right now. There are so many different things that are happening, and sometimes I think all people need is they just need an opportunity to grab some coffee, or maybe go get some food, or go for a run. I'm hopeful, because I do think people are remembering the value of things like that, and that being online can replace a lot of that in-person stuff, but it can't replicate it. I like to say that you still need like your whole world doesn't have to be on your screen. Like the world is out here, and there are things you can do to experience that.
Dude, you're nailing it. You're hitting dingers right now, bud.
Hope so.
You are. When you talk about the chamber and the reach out and community focused, like I get it. A lot of people don't really understand all the advocacy that the chamber does for businesses, both small and large, in the community that they're rooted in. The work that is done at Lansing, the work that's done with government officials to help promote, encourage business in our community, find funding, grant money, all that stuff. I think a lot of people are like, I shouldn't say a lot. I can't speak for everybody, but I think sometimes the communication out there is, well, the chamber's not doing anything for me. But I just think that they're not fully understanding all of the things that the Chamber of Commerce does that's not seen. Does that make sense?
Well, no, and I think it's so funny you bring that up, because I actually just sent over a chamber column to the Manistee News Advocate that touched on this a little bit.
Oh, good.
Because whenever I mention to someone that I work for the Manistee Area Chamber of Commerce, about 50% of the time, the next question will be, well, what is a Chamber of Commerce? What does the Chamber of Commerce even do? And I mean, I think about before I started working at the chamber. I mean, I couldn't have accurately told you every little way that the chamber is working and serving our community. And yeah, advocacy is weird too. It is hard to measure that because I think legislative advocacy, establishing those relationships with, our government officials and making sure that Manistee is being seen by in Lansing, and that they are not forgetting about Northern Michigan. I mean, that's not really tangible. A lot of that, it's hard to really quantify some of that. But when you think about what a chamber of commerce is, and here's the thing, chambers of commerce are not unique to Manistee. There are thousands of chambers across the country, and the thing is, all chambers of commerce are going to be a little different because they're going to serve, the way that they are going to operate is going to be based on the community and that community's needs. Like a chamber, like our chamber, is not going to be the exact same as a chamber in New York City. Like, that wouldn't make any sense because the needs of people in New York City are unique in and of themselves, and the needs of people here in Manistee are unique in and of themselves. For example, we get a lot of good tourism. It's amazing.
Right.
And we want to see businesses thrive and be successful here. How can we continue to lean into that? People have issues finding childcare. That's an issue. How can the chamber help advocate for that to ensure that we can have more affordable childcare in our area, or housing? And there are, so the Chamber of Commerce sees those needs, and the chamber prioritizes those, and making sure that when they are passing bills and they are passing legislation, that they're keeping those things in mind, because you need someone to be an advocate. Because if someone isn't standing up for those things that matter for your community, you can't expect things to automatically go your way. You need to advocate for that. And it is tricky. Again, I think it's perfectly valid to recognize that that's kind of hard to quantify because it is the most invisible thing, even though advocacy has the most impact on our community. The legislation that gets passed is going to impact your community,
right,
even if you don't recognize it at first. Like there's, I believe this episode may be published by the time this goes out, but like there's the Earned Sick Time Act, right? That's impacting virtually all employers across Michigan.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can talk a little bit about it.
I'm not 100% like read in on that.
Yeah, and that's tricky too, because I know that there are people that are advocating for some revisions on that. So I know at this time there may very well be some changes that I'm just not aware of. I know the chamber had held a lunch and learn a couple weeks ago, and we have a recording of that should be available on our website or on our Facebook page.
I'll try to put the link to that in the show notes.
But so I honestly can't really speak on behalf of that right now, because for all I know, there could have been some big decisions and revisions made today, or even yesterday. But the chamber is keeping tabs on things like that, and one thing we value is making sure we're educating our investors and the public on those things. One of my favorite things I did in 2024 with the chamber was help put together our candidate forum in September.
That's awesome. I think that's really great.
I think when it comes to elections, I think there's something so important about having an educated vote, knowing the people that are running and understanding their values and what it is that they're running for. That is so important. How can you need. So for me to be able to be a part of that, I found incredibly rewarding to provide candidates a platform to speak on things that they're advocating for, but then also giving the public the opportunity then to educate themselves, so that when they do go to the ballot box or whatever, they can vote for what they want.
Yeah, it's a little old school, almost like giving somebody a soapbox to stand on, which is nice, and it humanizes the vote. Those that took advantage and participated in that, or watched and listened. It's refreshing. I hope you guys continue to do that.
It'll be. I know we intend to be able to bring it back for future years based on whatever contested candidate positions there are. So. We'll stay tuned for September to see if who we may or may not have. So,
to go back to kind of dovetail on the advocacy and everything. Now, when you're out promoting a business or working with the chamber to spotlight a business, how many times does your phone ring saying, "Hey, how come you haven't done my business yet?" Because I would venture to think that it would be a lot, that people would be like, "Hey, when am I next? I want to get on this."
And that's why I think it's important to distinguish a couple things that the chamber is not. For example, the chamber is not a marketing firm, so the chamber is not going to do all the marketing for all the businesses and
Right.
every single investor. The chamber is not the city. So we're not the ones that are responsible for passing some of the things that the city passes. The chamber is not the tourism authority, right? There are all these distinct organizations that do different things. And so when it comes to, I mean, thankfully my phone doesn't ring too much, but we just try, we reach who we can, and it's important to, I find like keeping our investors educated on things very valuable with some of the work I do with things like our newsletters and e-blasts and those kind of things. It's a team effort, it's not, it can't all just be one person, I think one strength we really have right now at the chamber is everything all four of us are bringing to the table, myself, Andrew Stafford, Nicole Kaminsky, and then our president and CEO, Carmen Cott. We all have different skills and strengths that we bring with the chamber that can support businesses. And again, it's to that point that I mentioned kind of near the beginning. You have to recognize there are only so many hours in the day. If in a perfect world, you want to be able to get everything you want done in 1 hour,
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think something that's been really helpful for me is remembering my limits as a human being, right? There's only so much one can do, but to keep doing it,
Yeah, I feel like there's a very young, vibrant energy at the chamber right now.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah, and it's refreshing. Not to say that anybody who's come and gone wasn't fit for the role they were in or good for the role they're in, but right now it just seems like there's this. I've talked to you now. I've had Andrew on. I'm thinking about reaching out to Carmen. I don't know how comfortable she'd be on camera. I tried to get Stacy on for a long time, but she was always like, "I don't want to do that." But I think it's really great for people to see who's doing all this work at the chamber. And I like I said, I'm going to say it again. I feel like there's just like this energy that's there now.
I think it goes to show how important it is to have people of all age demographics working in your community. Like you need people that are in their 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and you need people in your 50s and your 40s and 30s and 20s and your teens. I like to imagine that the ideal community would have maybe not equal, but like roughly equal representation of people across the age demographics. You need your young people so that they can learn from those who are already in leadership positions, so that they can pass on the torch in 10, 20 years from now when it is time to do so. So I do think it's exciting seeing people that are either in college or coming back from college, or are just in that season of their life where they are trying to figure out, or maybe starting their career journey, right? Seeing them coming to Manistee, I find, is really encouraging. That they're seeing Manistee as a place where there's an opportunity for them. So I'm excited to see what's in store for Manistee County, especially as we go through the rest of this decade. And especially just with the team, I think it's great having people that can bring fresh ideas,
Right.
And being willing to try new things while still recognizing and honoring the things that have worked. You need that because times are always changing, people are always changing, the needs of people are always changing. So you need to be able to adapt to that to make sure that what you're doing is working for the people you're serving.
Before we round this out, what I want to know what for you is a kind of a personal question. Outside of work, outside of theater and the arts, what do you do for fun? What are your hobbies? What are some of the things that you enjoy doing in and around town?
Sure. So well, obviously everything in the arts I do love doing, and that a lot of the I sometimes do end up doing that for fun. Like for example, being involved in a community play. I was recently in Beauty and the Beast down at West Shore Community College, and
What was your role?
I was Lumiere.
Nice.
That was so much fun.
It was one of my favorite, like my younger kids growing up. We really enjoyed the cartoon, you know. But
Yeah.
I know all the songs, dude.
It's a classic. There's a reason Beauty and the Beast is a classic, right?
Maybe I could have been in that play and do the singing. Lumiere's the candle, right? Yeah, he's the best. He's got one of the best songs in the whole thing.
Your arms get a little sore holding those candles, though. No, I think when I'm not at work, a lot of times I am normally probably doing something related to the arts. So I know right now I'm helping do some piano accompanying work over at the public school for some high schoolers. They're going off to State Solon Ensemble in a couple weeks. I've actually I'm going to start rehearsals for the 10-Minute Play Festival that's happening down in the Ludington Area Center for the Arts. I'm also getting ready for our 10th annual Children's Theater Workshop in August, helping get ready for writing scripts and music and that kind of things. I love creating pieces. I think
Nice.
I think there's a lot. What's the word? There's something really rewarding about being able to create something that's your own, whether that is a story or it's a piece of art or whatever. And one thing too I love about the performing arts specifically is it's a great sense of community. I think a lot of people might be looking for. One idea I always love thinking about are like third community spaces. When you're not at work and you're not at home, what's that third place that you have where you have a community you can rely on? And many people have that. There are plenty there. You can be participating in a club. You can go to a church. There are so many different avenues where you could have that community. And the performing arts, I find, is also a great outlet for people. And one of my favorite things about it is that you can be anyone and you can be involved in a show. You might have stage fright. Well, you can help do you like working with your hands? Help build a set, or going to, I lost my train of thought again. But basically the point is so when I'm not at work, I'm often doing something related to the arts. Although oftentimes a lot of the work is fun too. Like I love the opportunities to get to sit down and chat and catch up with business owners and learn about their stories and how they're doing and what they're up to. Again, this is a town I grew up in. This is a county I grew up in. But the exposure I've gotten at the chamber has allowed me to really learn a lot. And I can't wait to see how much more I can learn. I want to keep learning everything, and so I try to stay busy, but again, I also try to rest. As I said, it's important to know when to say no, and it's important to know when to give yourself time too. So
Yeah, I'm in bed for like 9 hours a night, so.
you need sleep. Having like a healthy sleep schedule is so important. You got to take care of your body.
Are you working out or anything?
Yeah. No, I think that's another thing I learned in college was just the importance of taking care of your body is so important. Your body and your mind are connected. That's like, you need to take care of yourself. You deserve that, to give yourself that. Get some fresh air, go to the gym, do whatever you need to do, and enjoy it. There are outlets to keep yourself healthy, that can be enjoyable. It doesn't have to be a chore. There are things you can do to make it fun. Do the things that are fun,
Yeah.
Pursue what interests you. That's what I say.
I love it. Are you reading any books or anything?
Right now I'm reading this. I have this. It's on my bucket list to get through all the books that I currently own that I haven't read, because I think I have one of those things where I'll buy the book and then I didn't read it. But as of last year, I decided enough's enough. I'm not going to buy anymore until I read through all of these. So I recently finished The Shining for the first time, and that was a good one. That one, I can see why they said the book was a lot better than the movie. That's like way better. And right now I'm reading a collection of American poems from throughout history, and there's just mini biographies from some of the poets that they've selected, and I've been enjoying that too, because I don't really write poems too much necessarily, but I think there's a certain art to it that I think is really cool, and it's certainly reflective of a lot of our history too, to get to read what people were writing about so many decades ago, you know.
Yeah. I went through this whole history phase for about 10, 12 months where I was reading about all the American wars and the frontiersmen and stuff like that. And then my son had left for college, and he left all of his Lord of the Rings books. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on here, I'm sorry. But my youngest daughter is a very, like, ferocious reader. And, you know, she's gone through all of the Percy Jackson books. And so I told her, I said, well, we'll read The Fellowship and see if you like it. And so I started reading it because I had watched all the movies, and I'm like, man, this is way better. So then I just kind of like peeled through the whole thing, and I was like, oh shit, there's so many other books. Like my son had, like, I don't know if you follow Lord of the Rings stuff.
You know, I watched the Lord of the Rings movies for the first time last month.
So we're just watching them now.
Yeah, I get it.
And but there's some dense shit that Tolkien wrote that's pre-Hobbit and all this stuff that I made myself read, and I can really appreciate that writing. I've never been one to get into the kind of this fantasy stuff.
I'm really picky with fantasy too. I had started reading Lord of the Rings, but then I don't own it. I just got it from the library, you know?
Yeah. Well, by the way, the library, you said you bought books. The library's got this deal, the Melcat or whatever, where you can get any book, really any book you want. If they don't have it here, they will have it within a couple of days. They use all the libraries, and it makes its way to Manistee. So my wife and I and the kids, that's all we do. We just check books out at the library.
The public library is amazing. I think have utilized that. You have, I mean, they have books, and they have like movies and TV shows and just all these things, you know, and like all the apps like Libby and Hoopla.
Yeah,
and
we signed up for all of it.
Yeah, get all of it. You know, utilize it. It's free. All you need is I think a library card, you know. So so Lord of the Rings is on my to read list eventually, but I'm just trying to focus on one book at a time.
Yeah, it's dense, but they're good. They're good. I'm enthralled. I got a pile of books that I want to read that I just am forcing myself to finish this. And then once I'm done with this, then I'll get back into the other stuff. But I'm always interested to know like what people are reading and what they're into, because it fluctuates. I was big into like John Grisham back in the day, and I had all the books, and I read them all, bought them all, read them all, and I had a house fire like 20 years ago, and everything burned. And I was like, oh, so then I kind of took a break where I wasn't really reading anything. And my wife is another one of these people that she uses the library like crazy, and she'll read 2 or 3 books a month. And so I can either sit in bed with her while she's reading, or I can read something. So that's when I do the bulk of my reading, is at night. But anyhow, that's kind of where I'm at. Anything you want to add to the end of this, brother?
I don't think so. I just appreciate the opportunity to chat.
I got one thing to add.
Yeah.
I think you should do this. You should do a podcast at the chamber.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I was
100%.
I did a so when I was in college, I was a radio jockey for one semester, and I loved it. I loved getting to like be with the mic and like dealing with all the sound stuff. So I've thought about it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, this is really low scale. I mean, the cost involved in this with the mics and the iPhone, it's really, if you got a good phone. I've got a whole camera setup coming within the next couple of weeks, so the appearance of the podcast is going to look a lot better. But I mean, I've been doing this.
Yeah.
I started with no mics and just an old phone a few years ago, and gradually, as the show's gotten bigger and bigger, you know, get the mics, get some sponsorships, and upgrade some shit. Now I got a new camera coming.
Yeah, I love podcasts, so I mean, I might need to. We'll see. You never know.
I think you'd be great at it. Just like the stuff that you do where you go out and talk to businesses, you could do that long form, sitting down, or even just 20, 25 minutes. You know, there's a ton of podcasts out there that are less than 30 minutes long, but, you know, it gets the point across, and it's an opportunity to not only have somebody see or listen to you and your guest, but it gives you, there's another layer there, because I'll take this podcast and I'll cut it up into shorts and reels and put it out to advertise it. So there's a lot of additional marketing for the chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having a conversation with that business person or whoever it is you're having that interview, I imagine it's really rewarding for you.
It is.
To be able to have conversations with people from all different kinds of walks of life, hearing their perspectives and their stories. I imagine that's
It's the sole
rewarding
reason why
in
I
and of
do
itself.
it. It's the sole reason why I do it. This is like reading a book. I'm learning, and this has been really fun, dude.
This has been great. I've been loving this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we should do this again sometime.
Yeah.
For sure.
We'll figure something out. Just let me know.
Thanks for having me.
Hey.